Thank you so much, Jordan, and Harry, thank you for the tech support. It's beautiful and wonderful to be here. I haven't led this sit for a while, so it's really nice to be back. And thank you, Mark, for your support of this sit and that beautiful dedication to your mom. I have many fond memories of the children's librarians in the library where I grew up in Philadelphia. So it's brought a smile to my face, and I hope honoring her memory in this way brings you some meaning and comfort. So today is the second day of Rosh Chodesh Elul, which is the first day of Elul. So we begin the next stage of our journey to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Really, some of us started that journey back on Tisha B'Av, but Elul is really the intensification of the Cheshbon HaNefesh, the looking inside, and really thinking about who is it that we want to be in the world, how can we really be our best selves. And I want to share two beautiful texts, both from Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, that really he's not talking about tshuva specifically, and he's not talking about mindfulness specifically, but as we'll see, he talks about mindfulness and tshuva, and the way that our presence, being present, can really help us overcome some of the hindrances that arise when we try to think about changes we want to make in our own life. And I think if you, have been paying attention to your thoughts in whatever way that you do, you, like most other humans, have found that sometimes you get carried away in a story of what was true in the past, and sometimes you get carried away into a story of what might be true in the future. And sometimes those stories really block us from seeing the reality of what is and what can be. And Rabbi Nachman very beautifully addresses those tendencies of the mind. So I think Harry's going to put the link to the PDF in the chat, and I will share the screen here. We're not going to read through everything that he has here, but he has one text from his one of his works, Likutei Mahoran, where he talks about the idea of focusing on today, right? This is the first paragraph. This is an important rule in the service of God. One should focus only on today. Whether with regard to his livelihood and personal needs, he should not think about one day to the next, as is brought in the holy books, or with regard to serving God, he should not consider anything beyond this day and this moment. Now he's going to tell us why. For when a person wants to enter the service of God, it seems to her a heavy burden. She cannot possibly bear such a heavy load. However, when a person considers that she has only that day to deal with, she will find it no burden at all. And I'm sure most of us can relate to this. If we think about anything that we want to achieve in our lives, from running a marathon to practicing meditation more regularly, anything in between, when we think about it, oh, I'm going to run a marathon, I'm going to practice every day, right? That is a big undertaking, and not surprisingly, a way of thinking about it that can quickly become overwhelming. Oh, I couldn't possibly run a marathon. I couldn't possibly end up, meditating every day. And that mindset can so often set us up for, to walk away from our effort when we don't, when we take a misstep. My friend and teacher Yael Shai always says, I've heard her say many times, nobody forgets to brush their teeth one day and then says, oh, forget it. I'm such a bad toothbrusher. I'll never brush my teeth again. But we do that with meditation, right? We say, oh, I missed a day, forget it. I can't do this. It's too much. I missed a workout, forget it. It's too much. I'm not going to run that marathon or whatever it is. Fill in the blank for your own life. So he's saying, Rabbi Nachman is saying to us, if you look too much into the future, you might experience your goal and the change that you want to make as too much of a burden. But if you focus just on today, today I will meditate. Today I will run 1 mile. Then she will find it no burden at all. I don't know if I would say no burden at all, but certainly it eases the burden. It eases the sense of the possible overwhelm. So we don't want to look into the future, he says. We just want to stay in the present. This is the last line. For a person's world consists only of the present day and moment. Tomorrow is a different world entirely. Who knows what will happen tomorrow? Let's be here today with the work we want to do, the task we're undertaking. Beautiful. The second text, which is from a different one of his works, Sichot Haran, he talks about the opposite. What is the potential danger or challenge, obstacle of looking into the past? It's fascinating how he opens up this idea. In the world at large, forgetting is seen as a significant deficiency, right? I have a senior moment. I forgot her name. I forgot that word. I forgot to do something. Oh, it's a bad thing to forget. However, he says, in my eyes, there is something greatly beneficial in forgetting, because if it were not for forgetting, it would be impossible to ever serve God. Fascinating. We'll go to the second paragraph. All the things that have happened to a person in the past may confuse him, but now, by virtue of the process of forgetting, what has occurred is forgotten, and all that which transpired is gone completely. And a person does not return to these things in his mind, then he does not confuse himself by thinking about things that have happened in the past. So we can get very muddled. We can get very bogged down when we think about our behavior in the past, the things that have happened to us in the past. And he I think, really homes in and sharpens this idea in the next couple of paragraphs, where he says, this is especially true at the time of prayer. All the confusions and muddled thoughts come to her, a person, and they depress her in the past. They push her down into the past. And this is true in business as well, and in household affairs and the like. A person may think that she has not acted well, and she should have done such and such instead. Think about how many times you have been in this mindset. Oh, I had this really difficult conversation with my friend or my partner. Oh, I did this. I spoke unkindly. I should have done it that. I'm going to replay the whole scene in my mind again and again, and saying something different, behaving differently, right? But that is in the past. At times of serving God through Torah or prayer, thoughts about the past will confuse a person. And because all she will think about is how she previously did not act properly before God, the Blessed One. So in other words, when we get mired in the stories of our past, we come to see ourselves as unable to do what we want to do, to be the person we want to be. If we keep telling ourselves, if we keep remembering those things in the past that we know we should have behaved differently, we want to have behaved differently, we didn't want to relate to that person that way, we didn't want to skip meditation, whatever it is, it's so easy then to construct and get stuck in a story about who we are and who we can and cannot be. Like, oh, I'm never going to be a good partner. I always yell. Look at all these times I've yelled. Therefore, he says, forgetting is very good advice, because as soon as the events and the thoughts of the past are gone and disappear from one's mind, then one will no longer be caught up in those thoughts. So understand well, forgetting is a very good thing. There are ways, of course, in which forgetting is not ideal. But I think he's really pointing us here to this core experience and this core idea of mindfulness practice, that it's so easy to get caught in the ruminations of the past, or to get caught in the fantasies or the stories about what may or may not be possible in the future. And that's going to impede any service to God, any prayer. He's again not explicitly talking about tshuva in these passages, but when we think about what is tshuva, it's we're wanting to, again, think about who we want to be. If we get caught in those stories of, well, I can never be that person because I always was like this, or I can never be that person because it's too difficult. So the looking at the past and the looking at the future can be such an impediment. So with that idea in our minds, let's sit together. Let's strengthen our mindfulness practice now here in this community, on our cushion, on our chair, so that as we engage in the process of tshuva over the course of the coming weeks, we can use that muscle. We can use that muscle of being present to help us identify how it is we want to be and commit and take a step forward, one a day. So if you're not already sitting in a meditation posture, let your lower body settle heavy into your seat, your cushion, the floor. Feel yourself supported. And from that groundedness, allow your spine to grow long, upright, not rigid, but tall, a posture of dignity. Your eyes can close, or you can allow your gaze to go soft, or whatever it is you want to do or need to do to allow yourself to turn inside. I'm going to offer the breath as our anchor for our practice. If you are working with another anchor or focusing on the breath is not useful for you for any reason, by all means, use a different anchor or another practice. You can keep your attention on the sound or on sensation in the body. But if you're going to use the breath, I would encourage today, even if this is not how you normally practice, to place your hand over your heart center. And as you breathe, feel the movement of the chest, pressing gently into the hand as you inhale. As you exhale. Softening. a gentle wave undulation, really focusing on the sensation, the bodily sensation of your breathing. We'll settle into silence for about 10 minutes. And whenever you notice that your mind has wandered off into the past, off into the future, or something else entirely other than this sensation of the breath, gently and compassionately return your attention to your breathing. Being really present in this moment. Let's sit. So wonderful to practice with all of you, to be able to just, all of us, to drop into the present moment. The last sheet of the handout, or the source sheet, which you can again access through the chat, is a beautiful prayer that was composed by Rabbi Nassan, or Rabbi Natan, who was a student and disciple of Rabbi Nachman. And it is a beautiful prayer that he wrote to be recited before starting to pray, about asking for the ability to be present in one's prayer. So that is there for you for the taking, if that might be an aid in your own prayer practice, spiritual practice, especially on the Yamim Noraim, on the High Holy Days. And so thank you all for being in this community together. We will now have an opportunity for anyone who is in mourning or marking a yortzeit to recite the mourner's Kaddish. You can put the names in the chat of the person who you are remembering this morning if you like. And I think Jordan's going to put up on the screen the text of the, or Harry is going to put up on the screen the text, and invite you to rise if you are able, or if that is your custom, and to come off mute as we say the mourner's Kaddish together. Yitgadal, Yitgadash, Rabba,
Adwa,
Te,
Yami,
Te, V'chayechon,
V'chayechon,
V'Yitgadal, V'Galau, V'Yizman Karim, V'Haru,
Amen.
Yehi,
שמי רבא מברך, ילם וללמי עלמיה.
Yitbarach,
Vietadar, Vietale, Tal, Shilling, Dikachal, Reikol, Ve'alai, Kol, Ve'karta, Tushpati, Ve'nekat, Ve'aran, V'amina, V'imil, Amen.
Shalom Rabba, Shemaya,
Shemaya,
V'chaim Aleinu, V'Kol
Aleinu,
Yisrael, Amen.
Amen. Ose Shalom, V'Malav,
Yaseh
Ose
Shalom,
Shalom.
Aleinu,
Reinu
V'Kol
Kol
Yisrael,
Yisrael,
V'Kol
V'Kol
Yoshvei
Yoshvei
Tevel,
Tevel, V'Yimru,
Haru,
Amen.
Amen. May all of their memories be for a blessing. Yehi Zichronam Baruch. And since it is the first day of Elul, Jordan is going to sound the shofar to wake us up and get us ready for the work we have to do. Yasher Koach. Yasher Koach. Thank you, everyone. I think if folks want to stay on for questions, we have some time now. I'm putting the source sheet in the chat in a different format because I see a few people have asked for that.
Great. Thank you so much, Shuli. Beautiful teaching, really resonated for me. From what I could see in the chat, for many other people as well. As some of you have started to do, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. It's helpful if you write question in all caps. It'll just catch my eye. If I could start, I really resonated with, as I said, I really resonated with the teaching. The sources were new for me, and I really found them very powerful. It reminded me very much of meditation instructions that I've received, that before a long period of meditation, I remember a teacher said, you don't need to sit in meditation for the 45 minutes. You only need to sit one moment at a time. And
Mm,
I found that to be a really helpful reframing and to help me to come into that moment by moment experience. I'm curious, Shuli, to hear a little bit more from your experience and your practice. How does this work moment by moment? Like, and especially with the forgetting, or
mhm,
maybe there's even another way we could think of it as like putting down or letting go of
mhm.
or something. But how does it work kind of moment by moment in terms of your practice and coming back into present moment experience?
Yeah. Well, many people say, "Oh, I'm such a bad meditator because I can't stop thinking." But the more you meditate, the more you realize that you will never stop thinking, and that's a good thing because that means you're alive, and your brain is doing what it does because that's what the brain does. And so there's never going to be a moment where you are, or an extended period where you're fully in the present moment. At some point, a thought will arise that will take you out of that present moment. So for me, when that happens, which continues to be quite frequently in my own practice, it's the moment where I catch myself. Oh, I'm not here any longer. I'm now thinking about this. I'm now worrying about that. I'm now, replaying that conversation in my head. Okay, great. Reset. What was my anchor? If it's the breath, if it's something else. Okay, breath in, breath out. Let's just come back to what I'm using for my practice today. And I think that the science has shown, if I've understood correctly, that the science has shown that actually it's that moment of catching yourself and bringing the mind back to the present moment is where a lot of the neurological benefits of meditation actually happen.
Yeah.
So think about all those opportunities you have as your thoughts go off in different places to then reap the benefits of meditation by noticing that and coming back to the present moment. So that's how it works for me. It's like it's not a moment by moment because at some point my brain goes somewhere else. But then when I
Yeah.
wake up, oh, I'm not here. Then it's gentle return.
Mm. Uh, Picking up on that, I think it's related. There was a question in the chat about um, the question. I'll just read the question, and I want to just add one piece to it. The question is, what do you think about people with PTSD who want to
Mm,
forget but their bodies don't? And I would just expand it to say uh, PTSD is maybe a more extreme manifestation of this, but I think for all of us, there's a way in which, in maybe less extreme ways, we want to forget, we want to let go of something, but it keeps coming back. And also in the question is the underlining the way in which this experience is embodied. Like it's in the
mhm.
body. Somehow the body is holding on to the memory. So I'm curious, any thoughts about that, like working with the body in this process of
Yeah.
returning, letting go, etc.
Yeah, that's such a great question and such a beautiful question, and important. I am not trained in extensively in kind of trauma sensitive teaching or working with people with PTSD. There are teachers of meditation who have that experience and intense training, and so I don't want to, those are the people who would be able to answer that, I think, more accurately. But I would affirm, yes, trauma is held in the body. Everything's held in the body. If you've read that wonderful book, The Body Keeps the Score, or there are several others like it. Um, and I think I would say meditation does not, and probably should not, be your only spiritual practice or your only practice. I mean, just it's good to get up and walk around sometimes. But there are other embodied practices, certain styles of yoga. Phoenix Rising Yoga is one particular style that is expressly, teachers are trained in how to use yoga to open up places in the body where trauma is often held, like in the hips, in the jaw. So if you're interested in that, and there's also somatic experiencing, there are a number of different like types of practices that help people work with the places where trauma is held in the body. I don't want to comment on how or if meditation itself can address that, because I don't have that training, but I will say that mindfulness practice, even though it's not embodied in the sense of being movement oriented, it's embodied in that we're always coming back to the body, right? Mindfulness is the experience of the body, whether it's the breath in the body, or your anchor is your various sensations in the body, or sounds that you're hearing that are coming in. So it is a practice that orients us to the body as opposed to the thoughts and the minds, right? We're not trying to think our way out of anxiety or worry or whatever. We are just noticing where we are in the body. And then I think from there, once you have that orientation, it's a little easier, or someone becomes open to trying another format or practice that can really work through that.
Great. Really helpful. Question in the chat. I love this. It says, new at this. If we keep bringing our focus back to our breath, etc., aren't we still thinking about something? Is the goal just to stick with thinking about only one thing?
Great question. That is a fantastic question. So I was very caught up in this type of question when I began my practice, and at a certain point, I asked one of my teachers, Rabbi James Jacobson Mazals, I said, I'm still thinking. I'm noticing that I'm thinking, but I'm still thinking. And he said, that's great. That's open awareness meditation. Your mind will never stop thinking, but now you're noticing that you're thinking, and then you can say, all right, let me focus my attention on my breath, even though I'm noticing that I'm thinking, because that is what the mind does. So as opposed to getting lost in thought, it's not that the thinking will never stop or you'll only think about one thing. That isn't how our minds work. But think about how many times you literally get lost in thought. I'm like, what's going on? Oh, I was daydreaming about this. I was remembering that. So it's not about stopping the thinking or only thinking about one thing. It's about the noticing when and being aware of the other thoughts that are arising.
Great.
I hope that's helpful.
It's great. I also, just maybe one other word that I find really helpful for myself in this regard, that it really flows from what you said, Shuli, is witnessing. Like sometimes that's a helpful frame for me so that I'm not in like a thinking mode. Oh, what is this? What's going on? But I'm witnessing. I'm open to what is arising and passing, including the thoughts. So that might be another way to like find other language to help describe the experience.
Yeah, beautiful.
One last question, perhaps, and it's a kind of a synthesis of a few things that came up in the chat, but essentially, it's clear there's an important place in Jewish thought and Jewish spiritual practice for remembrance.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do you see that dynamic between the sort of like holy forgetfulness, perhaps, of
Mm-hmm.
like a letting go, and also this remembrance?
Yeah.
How do
I
we hold those?
I love that. The holy forgetfulness. So then I would say the flip of that is the mindful remembering. I don't think Rabbi Nachman would say there's no place for remembering. There's no place for thinking about the past. Certainly in other places, in other writings of his, he, that idea is present. Um, I think he's making a specific comment on how remembering can get us stuck. And so he's using that language of forgetting to, teach us or guide us into the practice, the idea of coming into the present moment. So the language is certainly very striking, but I don't know that they're in conflict. I think that we want to remember things. I mean, we have Kaddish. We want to remember people who were in our lives. We want to learn from the past. It's not that when we are entering into this time of year and thinking about tshuva that we don't think at all about the past. I think there's a way to remember that is mindful and intentional and doesn't get us carried away in what Rabbi Nachman is talking about, where we get so caught up in it that we say, oh, the past dictates our future. I think that maybe that's one way of reading what he's saying, that we can easily get into this mindset of the past will dictate our future, which it doesn't have to. But that also doesn't mean we don't think about the past. So I think it's true. I mean, Judaism, absolutely. Our tradition asks us to remember all the time, and there are important reasons for that. So gentle remembering, I like that. Gentle forgetting. Yeah, yeah.
It's great. Thank you so much. And thanks to everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
I love this chat today. So many wise, interesting, important comments. Really grateful for everybody's participation in that. And Rabbi Shuli, as always, so great to be with you. We were just on retreat together last week.
It was
So
wonderful.
fun to be back together. Harry, thank you so much. Everybody, Chodesh Tov, may it be a sweet and meaningful month of reflection, and Shabbat Shalom, and we'll be back on Monday. So thanks so much, and take good care.
Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, everyone. Shabbat Shalom, Chodesh Tov.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.